Kim's business. Where is that camera? It's right now.
Always end up over there. Papa Joe's.
Big one.
It's kind of a chain. It's like,
He's doing very well.
place over on
Doing
Window
very
Road.
well.
So it's a little bit. It's close to the park.
Mhm.
But they
Give him a call.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
There'll be so much food you'll roll out there. They got the place as well. But there's so much food in that area. Up near the stadium. Even
He checked in for the first board meeting before committee meeting there, so.
It's nice. I used to live between Windy Hill and Delta Road. Years ago.
The interstates are easier now to get there too because of the way they build everything else. It's really nice.
Sitting there. And sitting there all week.
Because the interstate like this and another interstate like this. And if you hit it the wrong time, you're not going to get there until maybe the fourth inning.
Good afternoon. I'll call the July 29, 2021 Marion University Board of Trustees meeting to order. For the record, the media has been notified in accordance with the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act. Our quorum appears to be present. However, Ms. Davis, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Bryson,
Here.
Mr. Coleman,
Yeah.
Mr. Dove,
Yeah.
Dr. Dozier,
Here.
Mr. Elmore, Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Mr. Bunn,
Here.
Ms. Bartone, Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Fields.
Here.
Ms. Leatherman is absent. Mr. Lee,
Here.
Dr. Hyde,
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Dr. Raquel.
Here.
Davis, did you get Mr. Elmore?
I got it.
And you got Ms. Hartone. And please know Ms. Leatherman is excused with permission. You have in your packets the June 3rd, 2021 minutes. Are there any exceptions or corrections? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Freeman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, passes unanimously. We'll go to committee reports now. We'll go to the executive affairs. I would like to ask for a motion that in executive affairs, we go into executive session with the board and Dr. Carter and any of his staff he believes need to be here. Motion by Mr. Moore, second. Second by Mr. McIntyre. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, folks, we'll be in executive session. Dr. Carter, if you invite those you want to stay.
Yes, sir. There are four vice presidents.
21, it's in your packet provided. Do I have a motion, do I have a second to my motion to adopt that resolution?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, could I offer a motion related to the resolution we just passed?
Sure.
The motion would be that the Board of Trustees delegate to the Chairman of the Board of Trustees and the President of the University the authority to modify these protocols as circumstances require.
Okay, motion by Mr. Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Coleman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to Mr. Bryson, Academic Affairs and Accreditation.
Well, before we leave that, can I make a short statement for the president? I just want to congratulate the administration and the staff and the students and everybody else that participated last year in keeping everyone safe during the COVID issues. Did a great job. It was a difficult challenge. It was historical in a lot of respects. And again, you did a great job, and I expect that the same will happen again this year. You're certainly on top of it. If I was a parent sending students here, I'd be very confident that you'll do the right thing to keep our kids safe. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dozier. We'll now go to Academic Affairs and Accreditation. Mr. Bryson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Academic Affairs and Accreditation Committee met today. Our meeting was well attended, and we appreciate Trustee Elmore calling in from the upstate. We've got a good report from our faculty chair, and we'll be welcoming 10 new faculty members for this upcoming academic year. Also, the faculty governance calendar has been set for the upcoming academic year. We also got a great report from enrollment management. Overall, it appears that our students are very excited to be returning to campus this fall, and I believe the first day of classes is coming up on August 23rd. The Office of Admissions this summer has hosted 11 in-person orientation sessions so far, and 2 more are on the docket coming up. The admissions office wanted to especially thank the Center for Academic Success and Advisement, CASA, for supporting the virtual registration portion of orientation, which was a great help in getting all these students oriented and enrolled for classes in the fall. Recruiting efforts continue for next year, and those are underway. Our total enrollment for the fall is on par with last fall, and we should have final enrollment numbers sometime later in August, either on or around the 27th. Report from the registrar's office. We are anticipating 28 undergraduate, 20 master's level, 2 specialist level, and 7 doctorate level candidates for graduation the end of this summer. Overall, total number of graduates over the 2020-21 academic year, 779. We also heard very good reports from our schools and colleges. It certainly was a challenging year last year, but they all have great optimism for returning to in-person classes this fall. And we welcomed to the committee, attending her first committee meeting in her new role as the Dean of the School of Education, Dr. Courtney Clayton. We were glad to have her join our auspicious group. Mr. Chairman, that ends my report.
Any question, Mr. Bryson? Hearing no question, Mr. Bryson, we'll next go to Mr. Moore, Development and Alumni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met this afternoon. Florence Stanton, our Executive Director for the Education Foundation, offered reports for all the departments. First up was the Development Foundation report. They've got Doug's Day scheduled for November 11th, which coincides with our next board meeting. That'll be at Sparrow Stadium, and the band Yacht Rock Schooner will be playing. From the Education Foundation, we've got a couple of gifts. There's a sizable gift, but we're waiting for a designation before we announce that, I guess. So there's a teaser. We've also got a generous addition to the Nellie Cook Sparrow Scholarship as well. As far as the Alumni Affairs report, there's a couple of events or a few events coming up. The Alumni After Hours, they've scheduled 8 events that are planned for the year, starting on August 25th with an event in Sumter. Additionally, there are 3 alumni receptions set for the fall. The Regional Community Affairs report, President Carter and First Lady Folly Carter hosted a reception for Vice President Teresa Ramey earlier this month, so the FMU community could say their goodbyes as she's moved on to a new position as Vice President for Community, Diversity, and Inclusion at Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia. So we certainly wish her well. The University Place Gallery currently has the Jamestown Foundation presenting No Place Like Home through August 13th. They're working on programming for the fall and spring at the Performing Arts Center, and the Center for the Child reports strong enrollment for the fall. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Question for Mr. Moore. Hearing no questions, we'll next go to Mr. Gunn. Standing in for Mr. Gunn will be Mr. McIntyre, Finance and Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Facilities Committee met earlier this afternoon and discussed a full agenda. with 2 action items to present to the full board. First, in your notebooks and package on, I believe under tab 3, is Resolution 7-21, a resolution for the university budget approval. This resolution approves the attached budget for fiscal year 21-22, and it was passed unanimously by our committee. As the board will recall, we passed a resolution based on a previous version of the state budget. But since that time, the state has revised its budget, and the university has adjusted its budget to reflect those changes, which includes a 2.5% employee pay raise and an increase in the tuition mitigation. The committee presents Resolution 7-21, Mr. Chairman, to the full board for consideration.
The Finance Committee has presented Resolution 07-21 for university budget approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Freeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, is in tab 4 in your notebooks is Resolution 8-21. It's a resolution for approval of capital improvements to the FMU campus. Attached to the resolution is a list of capital projects, including the projected timelines, estimated cost, and fund sources. A proviso was included in the State Appropriations Act this year that requires for the current fiscal year capital projects by comprehensive universities under $2 million get the board approval in lieu of a more extensive state approval process. The committee received a detailed description of these projects, which will be undertaken over the next 3 years. The committee would like to present Resolution 821 for consideration of the board, and those projects are listed and attached to the resolution.
That comes unanimously as well.
Yes.
The Finance Committee has presented unanimously Resolution 08-21 for approval of the capital improvements to the Francis Marion University campus. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 In addition to that, we had a report about the Freshwater Ecology Center, which is nearing completion. And the only things remaining are basically cosmetic things such as painting and fixtures and some paving out there. And we plan to have that open hopefully in the spring semester. And also, we're working hard to get the preparation for returning students on campus, getting everything up to par. So we'll be ready when those students arrive for the fall semester. I would like to thank Senator Leatherman and the Florence County delegation and the PD area delegation for all the hard work they did. In addition to Daniel Dukes, our governmental liaison over there, and a great response we got in the Appropriations Act this year for our capital projects, as well as new building projects here on campus and downtown Florence. So thank you so much to each one of them. Finally, Mr. Chairman, the budget summary report for 2021 is in your packets, and it indicates that revenues were realized slightly below the budgeted amount, primarily driven by the pandemic. But expenditures are also well beyond the budgeted amount, which reflects a fiscal prudence by the faculty, staff, and administration. And we appreciate all the hard work they did in response to those very trying circumstances this past fiscal year. Mr. Chairman, I believe that concludes my report unless someone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions, Mr. McIntyre? Hearing no question, Mr. McIntyre, we'll next move on to student life and athletics. Mr. Dove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We too had a well-attended session this afternoon. The first thing we heard was an update from SGA President, Mr. AJ Leggett. If you've not met Mr. Leggett yet, Mr. Chair, may I ask him to stand up so we can all get to know Mr. Leggett? Thank you, sir. Very impressive array of activities planned for the fall. The food pantry, for example, has been moved to the housing office to make it more accessible to students. SGA, during the 11 orientations you heard about, had a role in that and enjoyed being able to help with freshman orientation. They do have some upcoming events for team building They will help with open house, and they will have a leadership event all in August and September. Student Life, Dr. Kennedy gave us a detailed report. And like you've already heard, they find that students are very anxious to get back on campus. The virtual learning went really, really well, and commendations to all who made that work. But students want to see each other and want to be part of campus life. And student life wants to make the fall very exciting, wants the students to be very engaged. For example, on August the 27th for the music festival, there will also be carnival rides. Now, they didn't go into detail about that, but use your imagination. We know that students who are engaged are more successful academically and are more apt to go through all the rigors to graduate. And so it's wonderful that our student life people are aware of that and working toward that goal. In engaging students, we do have some housing on campus that has been changed to Greek housing to try to get the Greeks back on campus. We're interested to see how well this works. And the entire focus was back to campus and hopefully getting back to some form of normalcy this fall. Mr. Hartzler talked about sports, and the most of all the exciting things he reported was that 3 of our teams made all academic last year, and those are golf, volleyball, and men's tennis. So congratulations to those teams. Means that those players had anywhere from a 3.0 to a 3.2 or above average, depending on the sport. Another exciting stat that Mr. Hartzler gave us was that this year for athletes on scholarship was an all-time high of 83%. He says that this fall they will have 244 athletes on campus, and that 13 of those were in school in previous times and are back, and so hopefully they will come back to our teams. He talked a little bit about the name, image, and likeness policy that the South Carolina legislature has developed, and if you have any questions, please see him. It had a lot of things about it that we were interested in. And that, Mr. Chair, completes our report. Thank you.
Mr. Dove, any questions, Mr. Dove? Hearing no questions, Mr. Doug, we will now come to the president's report. Dr. Carter.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank the board for their patience and with the presentation of our COVID protocols. As everybody in this room knows, we had worked on these things for a number of weeks, and then the CDC threw us an interesting curveball earlier this week, and the changes in the protocols that you passed this afternoon really reflect some of those changes that the CDC put into effect. I want to thank the senior staff for working with me on these protocols over the last few weeks, and then coming back together a couple or 3 times or 4 times this week to kind of incorporate those last changes. Specifically, I truly appreciate the work of Daryl and Charlene, Peter, John, and Chris in putting together the document that we've been able to arrive with. You know, Mr. Vice Chairman, I appreciate your comments about last year and keeping the university safe. You know, as you and I both know, Randy, that credit goes to our faculty, our staff, and especially our student body who took COVID very, very seriously this past year. And that's one of the reasons I'm pretty optimistic about our ability to deal with it in the upcoming year. This is a campus that is very, very circumspect about COVID, and very, very cautious about the way we go about doing our business in this type of climate. Trustee McIntyre, you mentioned our capital improvements and our appropriations this year, $39 million in the Appropriations Act, more money than we've ever received in the history of the university in a single Appropriations Act. I think I commented to the Finance Committee earlier, it's right around what Clemson got this year, and I'm not sure that Clemson deserved that much, but I'm deeply appreciative to Senator Leatherman, the Florence delegation, legislative delegation. I'm deeply appreciative to Chairman Merle Smith on the House side. The only way you get two buildings in one Appropriations Act is if one's put in on the Senate side and the other's put in on the House side. That's the way it works. So both those chairmen brought it about for us by working together to get both of those buildings in. And I think, I know that my faculty knows this, man, getting that School of Education, School of Business building for me it's a dream come through. I wanted that for 22 years. I came here talking about this in 99. So thank God that one's done. Not quite, but almost. The last thing I want to mention with regard to that appropriation, and George, you comment on this too. What a wonderful job every year Daniel Dukes does for us. He works quietly. Most of you don't know the hard work he puts in there. He drives back and forth most days between Charleston and Columbia because he wants to be home with his family every night, something that I always respected. But Daniel Dukes does such a great job for us in the legislative process every year, not only getting the things you see, but keeping adverse things from happening to us in terms of provisos and other kinds of bills. So one thing I'd like to do, Daniel, would you stand up and let us all recognize your effort? Got one heck of a head of hair too. I got, Mr. Chair. Daniel used to coach the golf team at the College of Charleston, but he's doing more honest work now. Mr. Chairman, we're very excited, members of the board, we're very excited about some of the new programs that we'll be offering in fall. And I know that we comment on those from the Academic Affairs Committee, but I'm very, very excited about the veterinary studies option that'll be offered in biology. That'll open an altogether new dimension for our students on this campus. Business is bringing forward a digital marketing program, and as well as a network systems management track. Both of those are terrifically important to the development of our School of Business on campus. We'll add an engineering technology program in mechanical engineering, something that we've long needed on this campus. And I'm especially pleased that the sociology department will add a new healthcare track in its program. We are now members of the Conference Carolina Conference. I'm very pleased with that. We've gone to a new home where I think we have like-minded institutions, and I know we have like-minded presidents who believe that academics are as important as the athletic part of that equation. These are men and women on that board of directors of that conference that really believe in putting the student first in all considerations, whether it's the amount of time they spend traveling, whether it's protecting final exams from encroachments on the part of tournaments and other kinds of things, to just taking care of the student athletes on each campus. So I'm very pleased with the fact we've effected that transition. And I want to thank Murray Hartzer for all the work he's done in making my job much easier in terms of helping us move over to that conference. Murray, thanks a lot for that effort. Let me just, a couple of things in closing. We end the year, the university's in great shape financially. Last few board meetings, I've been bringing you just a summary. I'll give you a summary as we close out the past year and go into the new year budgetarily. We have $5.1 million in a carry forward in our unallocated operating contingency. That's $5.1 million in our budget that is sitting there, that is unallocated, largely based upon carry forwards from the past year. We have $14.5 million in reserve accounts in our capital and maintenance reserves. And we've got $7 million in our development foundation accounts. So the university now has about $27 million in reserve accounts as we go into this coming year. So in a nutshell, this new year, despite the COVID concerns, I think will be an extraordinary year for the university. We've got additional funding. We're constructing new buildings. We're offering several new programs at the same time that we're teaching the exemplary curriculum that's already in place. Of course, we're doing all this with the finest faculty in the state of South Carolina, as everybody on this board knows. The university's future has never looked brighter, and I couldn't be more pleased with that. I also want to remember the senior staff and the deans and chairs and the members of the board. We have a Redwood game tonight at 7 o'clock. You're all invited. I hope you can join us. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Any questions for Dr. Carter? Hearing none, we will go forward. I'm aware of no unfinished business. I'm aware of no new business. There is no need for an executive session. Therefore, the board will stand adjourned.